Welcome, Nilo, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about for Insomnium band, this new album, and also other things in the metal world. No? So, starting when a question. So, since 2019, a pre-pandemic era, I saw Insomnium was so busy promoting Hard Like a Grave in 2019. Then the band released singles, EPs, digital concerts, and a lot of content before this anno 1696. So for this reason, how important is for you to maintain the active with Insomnium and for the fans? Could they see some rest in the future because presenting singles, EPs, albums in the row can saturate the band's music? Who knows?
Yeah, big question. We have been busy, and when the pandemic started, 2020, we had to cancel the US tour, fly to Finland quickly before the borders got closed and all the airplanes stopped flying. So when we got home and everything seemed uncertain, we decided, okay, if we can't tour, then we're gonna make new music, and that we can do. And we started making songs right away, and decided that it would be cool to release something pretty quickly, so that it would keep us active. It would give something for our fans, something to look forward to, something to wait. So we decided to make Argent Moon EP for songs. Deliberately, there were kind of softer songs, kind of collection of ballads. And we knew that some people might say, okay, Insomnium is turning soft and radio friendly now, but that wasn't the plan. We knew that the next album is going to be darker and heavier. I had this idea of this concept already in my mind, and we all agreed it's going to be quite blackened and dark Insomnium. And after we had finished Argent Moon, we continued with anno 1696, and we have been busy and also doing the streams while we couldn't tour. And I think it's important to be active and kind of stay in the rhythm. You don't lose your touch.
Okay. For many years, I've been looking at the musical idea for Insomnium, and one detail that I always notice that you like to make concept albums. Therefore, what is the goal of making concept albums with an extreme style? And perhaps into this aspect, did you ever think of doing a metal opera like Arion, Aventasia, Aina, etc., and more bands, but inclined to the extreme world?
Yeah, we had done concept albums. Heart Like a Grave had a concept. Winter's Gate clearly was a concept album with a story, and this is again my short story here, and so it's clearly concept album. And well, personally, I like them. It gives this kind of deeper meaning to the whole thing. Like, I know some people, they just listen to music, they don't care that much about the lyrics, but for many people that they read the lyrics, they wonder what's going on in the stories, and for them, I'm quite sure that it gives them kind of new layer for the whole thing when there is this bigger story. All the graphics and illustrations are thought clearly, and the music videos and everything. Like it's all forms this work of art. Everything is related, and that's how we like to work. And we haven't talked about metal opera yet. I know some bands have done it, so I don't know if it's our thing, but maybe at some point that's what we come up with, or a ballet.
Yeah, well, who knows? So another tale that I've been noticing since Winter's Gate 2016, it is that you are paying a lot of attention to the physical editions, such a vinyl, and the CD has a kind of giant book. I have two. I have 3 books with a giant book here. So from that time, and even continues with this idea with anno 1696. Why did you decide to give that additional collection to each album since 2016? And did you think of making a complete box sets of the past albums with more themes for the collectors, etc.?
Yeah, we're old school guys. We love the physical format, physical albums. So of course, I use Spotify to, yeah, I use Spotify to find new music. It's a good way to find new stuff, but I really like to have my albums in physical form. You can feel them and touch them and open them and watch the graphics and read the lyrics, and that feels like the real thing. And we all feel like that. And so we wanted to make as cool physical products as possible, and something that we ourselves would be like thrilled to have. And this book format has been really cool for us, which we kind of invented with Winter's Gate, and we're doing it again. And I think that's kind of the ultimate format now for this album as well. All the coolest things are there. There's more illustrations there. Of course, they're bigger, and there's some extra song, of course, and the story. So we are old school guys, and we like cool albums and vinyls.
Okay. So I was reading the information of this Anon 1696, and I'm very intrigued by the whole concept that I was reading about the little story created by you, and whether it will, because I feel this new book need to have a second part, because I feel a lot of things was missed during this first part. So does this story have a second part with the band, or maybe for an external book doing more and more?
Let's see what we come up with. But this is meant to be a whole story. It's kind of tribute, or let's say kind of tribute or sequel to this Suden Morsian story, which is Wolf's Bride, or Bride of the Wolf, Finnish novel. It's kind of a tribute to that. That is also a story set in 17th century with werewolf theme in it. So we're kind of exploring that here, and let's see what we come up with next. But and well, I'm also writing a longer book at the moment, and that's not connected to Insomnium. Otherwise, that it's the Winter's Gate kind of world that I'm exploring now in bigger detail. So I'm actually writing a kind of full-length book. So that's something that I've been doing since the start of the COVID, actually. So it's a long project.
Okay. Now focus more on this new album and talking about the subject of living influence and feeling what happens internally and externally for the musician. Especially many musicians say that they don't have a direction when writing music and carry away by the feelings they have in the moment. That's the way most musicians compose or writing new music or new album. So for you, how does the part of producing an album connect with the idea of the sensation of it? Could we say that the music is a concept thinking, or perhaps it's a concept not thinking?
That is a good question and a difficult one, and it's hard to describe actually how the composing process actually goes and where the ideas come from. There is some hidden kind of magical element that where are these melodies and themes coming from? And but usually, if you just sit down, start working, you just play the instrument you play. Like I compose with acoustic guitar or keyboards. Usually, just keep on playing something. You find some cool idea that you like, and then you just keep on developing it. And it can be like you do the whole day. You play practically the same thing and try to make it as cool as possible, and you lost yourself in there. You realize it's been 8 hours I've been doing just this one thing. So when you get this into this flow state of mind, that's a good sign that you are so excited yourself about what you're doing that you kind of forget time, you forget to eat or go to the toilet. So and that is a good sign that you are onto something. And of course, sometimes it happens that you play the stuff to other guys and they say, it's not good enough. But if you are really like enthusiastic about what you're doing yourself, then there is a good chance that other people find it cool as well. That if somebody writes music just to kind of please others, like, okay, I will make a radio hit now, but it doesn't really come from the heart, then seldom that kind of thing works, I believe. And I think the key in why Insomnium is where we are now, the key of our success is that we have been true to ourselves all the time. We are really doing what comes from the heart and soul. We are doing what we really love. And luckily, there are people who find these songs great. But that's the only way. Be true to yourself and work hard.
Okay, thinking again about this new album, a detail that caught my attention was the inclusion of Sakis for the White Christ. So how was the process of creating this song? Was this intended to him to be a guest, or was he added at the end of the composition?
Yeah, the composition was first ready. And when we were, for the first time, playing it at the rehearsals, we all agreed that the song had this kind of Rotting Christ feeling and tempo and vibe. And we started first joking that, hey, we should ask Sakis to sing here. And then after a while, we started thinking that maybe we should actually really ask Sakis, because we know him a little bit before and he's a great guy. And all of us, we have loved Rotting Christ already in the 90s. So it was a really cool thing for us that he agreed. He thought it's a cool song. And apparently he ended up also on the video. And I think it's one of the coolest videos we've done. So all in all, like, such a great thing to have Sakis on board. And of course, the title of the song, of course, it references to Rotting Christ intentionally. But like, first there was this competition which reminded us about Rotting Christ, and then we asked Sakis that he's the man we need here.
Okay, nice to hear that. So many times when I listen to Insomnium albums, that the melodic sensation is combined with rock environments and even with the glimpses of post-rock or indie music or our times, as now happened in the song The Witch Hunter, when you add choruses and the beat keeps the same between all instruments, and you use some progressive details into there. So are you ever afraid of leaving the sound achieved in your music and entering to other musical environments? Did you think of having alternative productions away from metal with songs from Insomnium?
Yeah, we like to bring something fresh and new to our music, and that's what we try to do. Like, we're not Motorhead or AC/DC that we would keep doing the same album over and over again, but we want to kind of find something new and fresh, but still sound like Insomnium. And I think that's the key thing, that we don't want to lose that thing which makes us Insomnium. So it's always kind of balancing that. What can you bring that sounds fresh, but you don't lose your band there in the process? But like, yeah, we have kind of indie rock or progressive elements in several places. Long acoustic parts. We have black metalish, doom metalist parts. But I think they all still come together. When we make the arrangement, they sound like Insomnium. And yeah, did I answer your question?
Okay, no, don't worry. For me, it's impossible not to wonder the following thought. When I listen to melodic rims created by you, and then you put a female voice on it, like in Johanna Kurkela in God Forsaken, what are you changed to include the folkloric side on this music, on this song, especially in the music? Because it's feeling like is this feeling in the listeners intended by the band, or it's something spontaneous or of the moment?
You mean Johanna's vocals in?
Yeah. All song has this kind of folkloric vibe into there.
Yeah. Well, originally this composition, God Forsaken, it's Marcus Van Hal's song, and he used some female vocal samples in the demo just to give an idea that what kind of thing we're going for. and it had this kind of shamanistic kind of, sounded like this witch or elf from the forest is singing, and which suits this theme very well. And we needed someone who can actually, someone who has a voice like that. And of course, Johanna came to mind, and she's a great musician. And actually, she knew Insomnium before, because she's Tuomas Holopainen's wife or girlfriend. So they probably listened to Insomnium at some point. But
okay.
she knew the band.
Continue.
And yeah, she knew the band, agreed to, and she did great stuff. Like, she elevated the song to another level, and it became so much cooler than it was. That she has this kind of elf or fairy voice from another world, which really suits this song. So, like, we're not turning into Nightwish or Epica now. We just used female vocals in this one song because the song felt like this now needs this kind of atmosphere. So that's the reason why we chose Johanna.
Great. So talking about the history of the band, Insomnium was a band that was formed in 1997, but it took 5 years to see the first album in the halls of the waiting 2002. So being somewhat curious for me, in years where metal no longer had many limitations to launch first productions, and especially in Finland, the country of heavy metal, because I was there in 2014 to finish Death Metal Max, and all in that country is heavy metal. Since you start in restaurants, pubs, it's always heavy metal. It's amazing that. So, what happened to make it take 5 years to release your first album?
We were kids. We started the band. I was 17. Ville and Marcus were 16. So we were just kids. We were learning what to do, what kind of music we want to make. So that's basically the reason. We were just learning. We were kids. And we made 2 demos. And with our second demo, which we made year 2000, we actually got a record deal from Candlelight from UK. And of course, that felt like a great thing. Like, for example, Emperor was with Candlelight, and Opeth's first 3 albums were with Candlelight. So it felt like a big international label. And so we got signed and we started making the first album. But like, I think from the beginning, when you are a teenager and you form a band, and in 5 years you release the first album, I think that's still pretty fast.
Okay. So reading many of the titles of Insomnium discography, I always find melancholic similarities between them, because I come across with words like Came Down, Weeping World, Across the Dark, Dying Sand, Winter's Gate, Like a Grape, and more. So for that reason, do you think that one of the main elements in Insomnium's music will always be the melancholic, sad, and great textures? And did you try to have a more radiant or happy in mind? Because I always talk with a lot of people from Finland, and they told me that the environment or the clean or the weather there has a lot of influence in the music that Finland create over the time.
Yeah, for sure, this kind of sadness and melancholy is part of Insomnium, and that's kind of one of the key elements. That's not going to go anywhere. And of course, it's going to be in the song titles and in the album titles and in the videos and all the graphics we do and in our music. So that's really essential part of Insomnium. And it is very Finnish melancholy. I'm sure we sound like a very Finnish band. Like, Swedish bands sound different. Even they come from our neighboring country, but still they sound different. And Norwegians have their own thing. But yeah, weather has to do with it a lot. Like, it's really dark and miserable out there. It's not fun to go out now. So it affects people's mood for sure. Finnish people like melancholic, dark music, dark melancholic humor as well. So it's in us deeply, this But it doesn't mean that we are all grumpy and sad. That's totally different, of course.
Yeah.
I think Finnish people are quite happy, and Finland many times has been as the happiest country in the world. So, and I think that's true. Like, but sad music makes us happy, and heavy metal people know what that means.
Well, great. So we are very close to in this interview, Nilo. And for that, what are the future plans that the band has? Well, no, that the band has for this new album. More videos upcoming. Well, a few days ago you released a visualizer. So for a new song, perhaps you have European tours, perhaps American tours, or perhaps who knows? Because many people think, or many people ask to Metallarian to in I think in your social media that when Insomnium will have a proper Latin American tour with a full days, because it's a very expected band here for me, especially because I have all albums in CD, the last two in the books, etc. And really for me, it's, I need to see you live.
Thank you. And well, for sure, we would like to come to Latin America, South America, and that is the plan. And I'm quite sure that with this album now, if there is no another pandemic or World War III won't really break, then we will come to South America. Like there are so many places that I would like to visit there, so many places where we'd love to play. So I'm sure that's what we want to do. And but first we have a US tour coming with Enslaved now spring. We have the festivals, and then next autumn I think we have a European tour. But somewhere we are planning a Latin America tour, and for sure when we know we will announce it. But that is really the plan, because from all of us only Jani Liimatainen has been in Latin America, and he talks very highly of it. He has always had a good time over there, so we're really looking forward to coming over there.
Okay. Well, as I said in the first question, we will talk about now other aspects in the music industry and metal in general, etc. So where it is, I always consider that rock or metal music is the music of people that may age but keep the spirit young with all bands. I listen to the last records from the classic bands, and after decades, many of them managed to keep the energy. But to be realistic, not it lasts forever. In your opinion, what do you think is going to happen when most classical bands that can perform at the stadiums will retire? Do you think that there are younger bands that carry the torch in that aspect?
That is very interesting, because when these big bands like Metallica, Iron Maiden, when they can't tour anymore, there is a huge void to be filled. And I don't know if there are bands who can actually step up and do it, because the world has changed. When these bands became big in the 80s, it was a different world. Nowadays, like, the world is kind of shattered, like, culturally, and it's very hard for a band to become like that big, like what Metallica has been. So we're still gonna have, like, well, Rammstein for sure. It's a big band. There are many bands, but well, they're not young anymore either. But it's a good question, and how these big festivals, for example, how they find their headliners that would draw like tens of thousands of people. I'm sure many festivals are thinking about that right now, and they are a bit afraid what's going to happen in 10, 20 years. What are the biggest metal bands? But on the other hand, I'm not worried about the metal community. Like, metal fans are the most loyal fans in the world. They're supporting the bands they love. They come to the shows. They buy the CDs and buy the vinyls and the shirts. They're not gonna, even if these mega big bands quit or end their career, it's not the end for metal. There will always be new bands, and metal keeps flourishing in the underground. Maybe they are not stadium bands, but they're gonna be good bands touring the world, making great music. So, like, I'm not worried about the future of metal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, into this aspect, the music industry changed a lot through decades, especially for classic bands from 70s, 80s, and especially from the 90s. So they have seen a huge change into these eras. So, but even for a young bands may experience changes in the last 15 years with the way the digital platforms had become an important way to spread your music. So how has been your experience with digital platforms, and how do you deal with the issue of the fans not listen to the few albums like before, because they focus more on singles now, and what that we are living now the cyclic time returning to the 40s and 50s when the music is spread just by singles and no whole album.
Well, we are old school guys, and we love the album form, and we think of music as albums. We like to listen to full albums when we will keep on making albums. And of course, now with Spotify, it makes sense to have several single releases because that's how that platform works. And I have no problem with that. Like now we have 4 singles with this album coming out like every month, and it's a good thing. And we get to make several videos. There's one more video coming from Godforsaken. So that's how modern world works. But I'm sure that we won't turn into a band that would just release singles and another single, and then we can tour again, stuff like that. It doesn't sound right for us. But like I said, I use Spotify myself. It's a great for finding new music, and the algorithm sometimes it's smart, and it's can suggest bands that you actually like and you haven't heard before. So it's a good tool. But of course, the compensation for the artist, it's not what it's supposed to be. But I understand for the common user, it's a good format and you can find music easily. But I would say that it's not affecting our band too much, like our planning. We are still making albums exactly the same way. It just affects how we pick the singles and how many singles there will be.
Okay. Okay. Well, now there is a huge movement that the great bands, the great bands like Behemoth, like Arch Enemy, Manowar, and a lot of bands. If you can see live shows of them, they are put a lot of scenography elements, etc., for the for do more a live presentation live. So if we took this aspect for these bands, what kind of elements and what kind of scenography do you need to do a better representation for Insomnium live? Perhaps Vikings there, perhaps wolves, who knows?
Well, we are just thinking about now our live setup for the Anno 1696 cycle, and the release show is in about 6 weeks. So we have ordered some stuff. It's gonna be an upgraded show. I think we have some cool elements. There won't be any films or animations or cinematography going on. We do it without that, but we have some cool tricks that we haven't done before, and I'm quite sure it will look special and something you can easily do in the different kind of conditions. And it's not like overly. We don't have to build a castle there on stage or anything like too like crazy. It's something we can still do in a smaller club or on a festival stage. So but we have a good light designer guy. He has great ideas, and so we can do something that kind of fits our level, fits the places where we are going. And but yeah, when you are as big as, let's say, Rammstein, and you play stadiums, of course you need to have some kind of more striking visual things with the band. That, of course, that's clear, but for us it's still more, let's say, down to earth. But we are improving how things look on stage to make it more, let's say, theatrical or dramatic. That's something that fits this album.
Okay, well, now perhaps do you hear about this aspect in the music? Well, when a listener hears the music, perhaps do you hear about this synesthesia matter?
About what?
synesthesia. Well, if you don't know about this word, is when a people listen to music, they see colors, they smell odors, they see this kind of as the taste into this in their mouth. So for that, if we try to relate this aspect with this new anno 1696, so what kind of colors and odors and tastes that the listeners will find into this new album from Insomnium?
Well, that is a tricky question. And I know some people experience these really, and something I'm sure everyone will feel differently. But for sure, it's a dark album. I'm sure it smells like forest and maybe like wolves, and smoke. That's how it smells like. And for sure, it's very dark. What it tastes like, well, in the story, they are eating something in the story. There's this scene, something cooked fish, or what are they? Grilled fish eating there, but probably it tastes like blood in your mouth. It's a bloody story.
Okay. Well, Nilo, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoy this one like me doing this one. So, congratulations for the last one. It's a great one. I hear all album. I did my pre-order as a fan of your band since your first album. So I hope arrive soon. So, perhaps do you wanna add something to your Latin American fans? As I said, expect long time to see a full tour here and Metallarium followers.
Yeah, like I said, it's been our plan for quite a while already that we have to come to Latin America. Like there are many countries there that we need to play, and that is really the plan. So be patient, my friends, and we will see you soon, I hope.